So, are you curious?
Welcome to the Curiosity Codex. I am your ardent enthusiast, Kyle Olson. Our conversation with Mandy Fabian continues. Here we'll discuss what a Hollywood party is like, including going to an Emmy party. Then we get into writing, where we compare notes on how to take notes on your script. But first, we'll talk about moving from New York to LA.
Chapter 4, Mansion Food.
Okay, so let's see. When last we left, you had left the Big Apple and headed out for the city where dreams come true. Hollywood, yeah, California.
It was like 8 years or something after I had been there and said, I'm going to move to LA. And I went back to New York to just get my things. And then 8 years later, I finally did move to LA.
Rosie O'Donnell finally let you go.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Yeah.
So was it a job that brought you out, or was it just like, enough is enough, I got to go?
I will tell you, well, I can tell you the exact moment. I was walking my dog back from Central Park but towards my apartment, and I could see the sunset. It was this like gorgeous, gorgeous sunset. And I just like, it stopped me in my tracks, and I was like, oh my God, look at the sky. And then I realized that the sky was like this big. It was like an inch. It was like an inch strip between these two really tall buildings. And I was like, oh, that's a problem. I love the sky, and I can never see it because I live in a city. And it really was, that was a moment where I was like, you know what? I may have more job security in New York. I had a great career doing voiceover in New York. I'd done the whole, quit waitressing and was a full-time actress. And it was a big leap. It was a big leap. I don't think I had agents that were representing me for acting at the time. So it was like a real wow. But that sky, that was enough. Yeah. And I thought, what's the worst that could happen?
Really?
Well,
because I could think of a lot of worse things that could happen from that scenario.
That's how life is. Like when you're 20, you're 20, you graduate college, you're like, I'm either going to get a job or I'm going to have to move back in with my parents, or I'll have to move it. I'll have to be a nanny. I mean, you just have to figure it out. And so I was at that point where I was like, well, I can either stay where I don't really want to live anymore, or I could go to California and see what happens, And so I chose,
choose LA. Yeah. So as Lin-Manuel Miranda wrote, ain't no Cassiopeia in Washington Heights. So.
'Tis true. Nice.
Yeah, so did you get a car, pack up all your stuff in a U-Haul and go across, or did you just I'm going to sell all this crap and then just fly?
I'm trying to remember. I think mostly all the crap was sold. Or did I pack up a truck? No, I must have packed up a truck. Geez, I didn't pack up a truck right away.
Okay.
Oh, it was actually, yeah. Well, I had a breakup.
It's a process.
Yeah. I had a breakup. So now that I'm remembering, yeah.
Okay.
Now that I'm remembering, I came first.
We don't have to dig into painful memories.
No. It's not at all. It was, but yeah. So I drove with a friend of mine, Brady Kazar, who we packed up my car and we packed the trunk as tight as we could, and we drove to Los Angeles. And then, yes, my ex ended up packing some furniture. We kind of split the furniture and sent some stuff on a moving truck for me. But it worked out. I found it was really fun. I found a little 2-story bungalow. I came from New York, right? So you have a postage stamp that's like $2,000 a month. Yeah. And in LA for, at the time, I think it was like $1,300. It was like a 2-story, 2-bedroom little duplex apartment thing with a dishwasher and a washer dryer, and it was
your own.
Oh my God!
Yeah, so you weren't sharing it with everybody else.
No, it was. I mean, I had a roommate, but it was wow, that is kind of epic. That the rent was so much cheaper in LA.
Yeah, and space.
Yeah, I lived in a friend's bungalow. He was out of town doing a play, so I lived in his place for a while, and then I found my own apartment and I just got started. And luckily, the voiceover agents that I had in New York, they also had an office in LA.
Nice.
So,
So you could go in and record stuff.
Yeah.
So you're still
So I-
doing what? So what kind of stuff are you doing? Just more commercials?
totally. Commercials.
Okay.
And then I did a little bit of like a lot. Well, I came from the promo world, right? Rosie O'Donnell.
Right.
So I
Right.
actually was supposed to do the Ellen show.
Oh, okay.
And then
that is a natural move.
it was like the same company that had worked with me on Rosie. They were looking for an announcer for Ellen. And I remember it was the weirdest thing. I drove to the lot, I got a drive on and everything. And I was supposed to go meet Ellen or meet the people who were going to
drive
hire
on.
me.
Yeah.
For Ellen. And I went and I waited and they were telling me kind of what I was going to do. And I was like, okay. And I sat there for a couple hours and then they came out and they were like, okay, well, you can go. I hadn't spoken or met anyone. And I guess it was a mistake. Like they were just getting started. So I don't know what happened, but it just didn't happen, which is really funny because it was sort of my like, oh, that's a guarantee. I'm definitely going to meet Ellen and be the announcer of Ellen. And then I just wasn't. But I still had, I did a bunch of other commercials and things like that. But it was weird. It was definitely, none of my regular agents were there. And in New York, I was like buddies with all of them. And I had already proven myself, I was a big booker. And then I come out to LA and I'm like, oh, I'm not a big booker yet. So.
Right. Well, yeah. So how do you start finding out what the auditions and stuff are? Because you don't have, is it variety? Or like you don't have the same kind of list that you do in New York.
For voiceover, you have an agent that knows about all the auditions. There's there's websites. These days there's websites you can go and find people who are looking for, if a small Western wear store in Kansas wants a voice, they'll put something on like voices.com. I forget, I don't know what the names of the websites are, but there's places where you can be an indie voiceover person and go find jobs. But when I moved to LA, that was not the case. In fact, it was like maybe a year after then that people started doing their own home studios so that you could audition from home.
Yeah.
That was a new, exciting thing because then you didn't have to drive, 45 minutes across town and then wait for 2.5 hours while they had every person in the agency come in and do their 6 or 7 pages of copy and chat in the booth. So it was like, not that I'm complaining.
I suppose you were probably still recording to media then. I wouldn't think that you were like transmitting it because it's still a lot of data.
I don't remember.
For the early days of the internet.
They were just megabytes. It wasn't,
okay.
But it was like flash drives and CDs. You had to, you transferred things on CDs and DVD ROMs. Remember those?
Oh, yeah.
Yep. So, yeah, I think it was all, I remember I could ask somebody to email me a spot if I did it.
Okay.
But it was interesting because I think it was it wasn't as much fun. In New York, it was a lot of fun because there were like 60 of us that were all auditioning for everything all the time. So you'd go into a waiting room and it would be like a party. Yeah. And I never really had that in LA. Sometimes you'd see people that you like, but it was weirdly isolating. And because people had to drive so far, a lot of people did stuff from their booth. And so this is the most boring. Isn't this boring?
No. It's because you've picked up and moved multiple times at this point.
Yeah.
So like when you pick a move, how do you find your people?
Right.
Like because by the time you left New York, you were doing improv. You were doing like sketch comedy. You had a little group that you were doing stuff with.
Yeah.
How do you start doing that in a town where 3-4 people? I'm guessing. Or do you actually have a lot more people that you had known because of? Well, when
it comes to moving to LA from New York, you are going to know a lot of people because a lot of people, the people that I knew in New York were in the entertainment business, and so the ones I knew had moved out to LA to pursue the entertainment business. One of the few people I did know was Mandy Kaplan.
Oh yeah,
now Mandy Clavens.
That's right.
And she was really like we had sort of barely knew each other in New York. And it wasn't until I moved to LA that we were like, oh, we should be really good friends. So I had like a few people that I had done shows with that had moved out here that had kind of forged ahead. And I connected with them. And then, they introduce you to their friends. It was, you go to parties. It was, I don't know, you just sort of, I found weirdos and I love weirdos. And when you're in that creative community, everybody's like, excited to play. You know what I mean? in life and in art. So you find people, you strike up a funny conversation. Inevitably, somebody's doing a stand-up show or a music show or an improv show, right? And you're always all doing stuff. So it's not really, if you're not self-conscious or if you're not afraid of meeting people, it's easy to meet people because, you know, I went and did, I think I did like I did an improv class at Upright Citizens Brigade. I had done that in New York, too. I did comedy shows because I played guitar and I sang funny songs. And so I got into that pretty quick. I played a funny song at a party and a guy was like, hey, can you do 45 minutes of that? And I started... I was like, sure. And by the way, I could not. I knew like 3 songs.
Of course. But you say yes.
Oh, my God. I said yes. And then I was desperate. I was like, can anybody find somebody who can play guitar? Because I can only play these 3 songs. So... I was just, you know, you've heard my story. I'm basically just ridiculous. I say yes to things and then I go, how am I going to do this? But that's what I did. And so I was playing music and I was meeting people that way and then doing a little bit of comedy. I think I did a couple comedy shows. I knew a couple. There was a playwright I met at my voiceover agency, and he had a play that I was a part of. So, you know, it's one of those things, if you do it and you're around people doing it, inevitably you're going to figure out a way to work together. Kind of. Right.
So then next pilot season rolls around.
Yep.
And then, like, you basically go through the system again? Like,
well, no.
No? Okay.
No, because because I didn't have... Did I? Oh, God. I had a bunch of like nightmare stories. Like I met a manager who was like, you're the tops, kid. I'm going to take you. I got a manager. And then I went out. She wanted me to meet these casting directors and these people. So she invited me to this hotel to have like drinks by the pool and meet a big deal casting director. And I think it was when I was driving her Mercedes to her house, so because she was too drunk to stand up, that I thought, I don't know. And I think she invited me up for like a nightcap kind of thing. And I was like, oh, this is not a good situation. So I ended up dropping her off and leaving her car there and taking a cab back to Hollywood and then rethinking my strategy. But it was kind of a weird... you know, I didn't find an agent. I don't know if I looked that hard because I had been so used to things just sort of happening to me, like by doing what I do, right? Oh, I'm doing theater, I'm doing comedy, I'm doing shows. Like, obviously somebody's got to go. She should have a television show. That oddly enough,
just a matter of time. You're hanging out in Schwab's all the time, and they're just not discovering you.
You know what's really interesting, and I just discovered this recently. I know that sounds so silly. Like when I think of it now, I'm like, that's ridiculous. You really, like, that's a crazy thing. But I really thought that. I was just like, duh. I think it was like maybe 6 months ago, and I was like, wait a minute, I'm not Jennifer Aniston. Like, I just was always like, it'll happen, you know? Okay,
so then what, at this point...
So what do you do?
At that point, no, well, what is it? Like, what is it that you... Like you're working, which is great.
Yep.
Like you're paying your bills,
making money as an actor.
What is it like? So are you a movie star, like sitcom star? Yeah. Like what is it that you had your eye on that you like wanted to say like, oh, that's when I'll make it?
You know, for me, I think it would have been that. It would have been probably sitcom. I would have died to do like multi-camera sitcom stuff. But that stuff really is tricky to do. You either have to have an agent who's going to introduce you to all the casting people and not a voiceover agent. So there's a commercial agent that does, hey, I'm going to introduce you to the people who put you in a Tide spot. And then voiceover, like, I'm going to introduce you to the people who will record your voice for a Tide spot, and then there's the on-camera. You probably know this stuff, but then there's the on-camera.
No. I think this is kind of what I wanted to get into. Because I mean, I think for people who don't know the business as well. Yeah,
they call it in New York. They called it commercial and legit, and in L.A. they call it commercial and theatrical. So theatrical is like movies and television and all that stuff.
Okay.
And I never got theatrical representation. I just didn't it was one of those things for me because of my style, which is super inefficient, I realize now, but I was having so much fun. I guess I was like, man, my style was, someone will discover me. I probably could have sent out more, headshots or asked around and be like, hey, will you introduce me? I know people do that and it's very successful for them. That was never my style. So I wasn't really auditioning for pilots and things. Every so often I would get an audition from someone saw me in a show or someone recommended me or I met somebody at a party and they would bring me in. But I'd have I just didn't audition that much theatrically.
I'm just kind of curious, what is a Hollywood LA party like? You've socialized it. There's that, you see it's in La La Land, there's these beautiful people just milling around. But I guess as someone who doesn't do the social thing as well, I always look at that and go, but what are you doing?
Oh my God, what? You would be so good. You would do.
I don't know if that's true.
You would do so well at an LA party. The secret to any LA party, which you have in spades, so I'm going to tell you why you would thrive.
Okay.
You just ask people about themselves.
Oh. Okay.
If you want to rock a Los Angeles...
That's some Dale Carnegie stuff right there.
Absolutely. Where are you from? Oh, really? When did you come to LA? How did you become a sound mixer? Oh, that's interesting. Okay. And did you always know you wanted to do that? And what are your parents like? And is that your girlfriend? Will she stay your girlfriend? Oh, all of it.
I suppose because nobody's from LA, right? So you always start with...
Yeah.
Where'd you come from?
It's funny. There are plenty of people from LA. Most of them grew up in the Valley.
Oh.
Which I think is really funny. And a lot of times their parents weren't even in entertainment, which I think is interesting. But no, but there's a lot of transplants here. And it really, what I love about LA, it's a huge city, right? There actually are people here who aren't in the entertainment business, even though some people would argue that fact.
Everybody's got a screenplay, right?
Yeah, right. But there's a big diversity of interest and cultures and wealth levels and what people do for fun, right? So an LA party could be like a stupid backyard barbecue to meet me at the LA Marathon to a dive bar. It's like... It could be, like I said, there was a lot of social that's around going to somebody's comedy show or going, that kind of stuff. But they used to have crazy, they're very creative people. So you'd have epic Halloween parties where I once had a party, a housewarming party. And my friend, my very best friend and agent, my voiceover agent, she brought all her friends and they all came dressed in prom gear.
Okay.
But just for fun. Because why not? Because it was a Thursday. That's what I mean. They're all they were all set designers and kind of freaks and geeks kind of thing. And they would just dress up like that because why not? They decided to go to Goodwill. They thought it would be funny. So,
a lot of these are theater kids gone big.
Totally. And there's a lot. So it's filled with that kind of thing. So there would be little house parties with weird themes and things like that. And then, as you meet different kinds of people, then there's also a Hollywood party where it's in a giant mansion and there's a valet and...
Yeah, I was going to ask about that too. Do you feel the strata? You're hanging out at somebody's apartment and then suddenly you're at a mansion.
I think it definitely... that was surprising. Going to the mansions at first was very intimidating because you're a little bit oh my God, how do people live like this?
I shouldn't touch that vase.
Yeah.
That probably is worth more than I make in a year.
Just the opulence of it. Is that the right word? Just the, oh my God, that pool is so beautiful. And look at those chairs and And there's 4 of them. How do they? Why do they need all this house for 4 people? But it's great. You know what I mean? And we used to call it mansion food. To be let's go to that party. There's going to be mansion food, free and excellent, and all different tables strewn with, kind of medieval feast kind of situation.
Wow.
Yeah, the most incredible food, or it's getting passed to you, or there's always an open bar. There's cater waiters. There's it's nice. It's really nice
So
to be
is that a you know somebody who knew somebody who got you in?
to a mansion party.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Okay.
It's always you have a friend who knows somebody. But that's the thing about Los Angeles, right? Like,
yeah, people know people.
and I suppose the same as in New York. I never knew rich people in New York. Well, I knew one rich person in New York. But really, even if you were made like quite a bit of money, you were still middle class in New York, like
Right. Right.
but in LA, and there's that weird thing of television is big money, right? If somebody hit the jackpot, it's mansion money. And that's where all the business really was at the time. And so that's where all the big mansion money was, And so
Now, would you know whose mansion you were in?
not always,
Okay.
but it's not like, I didn't go like cruising for Ragers or anything.
No, yeah, I know.
But yeah, no, generally sometimes you would hear like, like, oh, so-and-so, he's a showrunner for such and such, So there were definitely
Or studio executive, like whatever.
showrunner mansions, maybe actors sometimes, just people who've just been in the business for a long time, producers, and they get, if an actor gets, a series regular on a network show for 5 to 7 years, that's huge mansion money.
Yeah, right.
And a acreage and horses, yeah, for their first home. Yeah, so you would sort of know sometimes. And then I remember I went to this party one time and it was crazy. There was Steve, oh God, his last name I'm blanking on his last name, but I was such a huge fan. He did Modern Family.
Levitan?
Yeah, Steve Levitan was there.
Yeah.
And that was a thing where it was one of our friends who happened to be friends with him. And we went to John Ritter's wife's house and we're sitting there with the Ritters and then Steve Levitan and then a bunch of people, very recognizable TV personalities. And every other person that I met was like, oh, you won an Oscar and you run this show and you ran that show. And it was like, I was sitting there and I actually remember that moment because I was really freaked out. I mean, I was really, for the first time, kind of like, how do you talk to people like that? This is like the royalty of the business. But then I kind of, I figured it out that they're just people. And and by the way, if you're there, I mean, I was invited too. It's not like I crashed the party and am passing out my resume, So it was like it was a really interesting.
Can I pitch you something right now?
That's what I mean. Like everybody's just a person, so you very easily find yourself at a bar or a concert or a restaurant or a party with someone who is like gigantically famous, and that's just how it ends up being. Eventually your paths are probably going to cross because that's just what this town is. So that does make it kind of fun. I was always a little intimidated by that. Again, though, I was intimidated because I was like, hang on, I'll get to know you better once I'm Jennifer Aniston. Because I don't know if you know this, but it's going to happen any second.
Yeah, I'm about to be huge, just so you know.
I'm going to be a comedic genius. You wait. I mean, we've been to a bunch of Emmy parties too. And those are crazy. Those are a little bit more,
Those happen on the night?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So everybody watching it together.
No, I meant actually going to the Emmys.
Oh, going to the Emmys. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's something that I have gotten to do, not because of my work, but because of the man I'm married to. He is on a show that was getting nominated for Emmys, so I've gotten to go to the Emmys a few times.
Do you remember your first one?
I do.
So what? Okay, so obviously going to the Emmys, we'll talk about that too. But since we're on parties, what is the difference in the energy? When you go into seeing the most famous people dressed up in the most expensive clothes, carrying trophies around.
Wow.
How do you keep your head?
Well, by that time, I'd gotten so used to being surrounded by these people.
Okay.
And I had by that time, I'd really found my center as a writer and a director. And I got a little more, so.
So you didn't have any imposter syndrome.
I did not have imposter syndrome.
I'm supposed to be here.
Well, yeah, and I was married to a guy who had been nominated, so it was it made that's a really great way to go. It's wow, we actually were invited to this, and it's such a rare invitation that it's this very cool, this is one of the things I love about Los Angeles. Number one, to your point earlier, that everyone is so beautiful. When I first moved to LA and I was like newly single, I was like, oh my God. I got a gym membership at the YMCA, like just the local gym. And I would go, not because I like to work out, but just because I couldn't stop looking at everybody. I was like, who cares if I ever get a job or make any money or be successful? Because I could just stay at this really affordable gym and just look at beautiful people all day. A great incentive to work out. And the thing, you walk into a restaurant in LA because nobody, people, the famous people, but also nobody knows. I could be a giant, development executive at Warner Brothers. Like I could be a showrunner of a show they don't know about, and I could hire them, or I could be they don't know. So there's this really interesting phenomenon in LA where everybody really looks at everybody, and they really, until they find out that maybe you're not somebody in a way, but like they really kind of like, there's this constant, like you're allowed to look. And I like that. So when you're at this Emmy party, it has kind of the same vibe. It's like, well, you're at the Emmys. Yeah. So you're treated like royalty. I mean, every person who goes there, like helped out of their car, and you get drivers, and I mean, they give you a driver. They hand you water the minute you get out of the car. They make sure you have things to eat. They put you in shade if you're getting hot. They have snacks. So they have places where you can. It's amazing. It's incredible.
So did you get starstruck by anybody?
Oh,
or were you sort of like, or were you sort of past that?
No. I'm not starstruck. Like there was one awkward moment where somebody was like, Mandy, and I turn around and I'm like, oh God, somebody knows me. How exciting. And I'm like waving and looking at this woman who's clearly coming in my direction, and she walks right past me, and I turn around and it's Mandy Patinkin.
Oh. Well, if you got to lose out to Inigo Montoya, then...
Yeah, exactly, right? And then there was one time when I was at an Emmy party, and we were standing... We had found the one location in the party where there seemed to be like an empty couch, and my feet hurt because that's classic Emmy material for me. Like,
sure,
you have to wear those shoes all day. Come on. Anyway, you do. You start getting ready at like 11 in the morning, and then you were out until 3 in the morning. It's crazy. But so we're at this Emmy party, and there's this empty couch, and we're sort of leaning against it and chatting and thinking maybe we'll go home soon. And all of a sudden, Phoebe Waller-Jones and her entire Fleabag entourage come in and make a beeline for us and sit down on the couches and chairs that we're like lounging on the back of. And it was this amazing thing because that was the year she won all the Emmys.
Right.
And we're just sitting there like as if we've been invited into their group. And I'm just listening to them. Like Patrick is like, all right, do you still want to leave? Do you want to stay? I was like, oh no.
Not now.
I'm very happy. I am going to just watch this like the show. I mean, it was all, I love that show so much. So watching them, it was such a like, oh, stars are just like us. Look at, he's drinking a drink just like I would out of the same cup.
Phoebe's feet hurt too.
Phoebe smokes. Isn't that charming and British? It's, yeah.
Did you actually ever say anything?
Yeah, actually, you know what? I'm very proud to say that before her show was a giant, massive hit. Oh, this is another thing I got to do. I get to do fun stuff. I have very successful friends, and I get to do fun stuff. So my friend Dan was in a Steven Spielberg movie.
Oh, okay.
And
do you remember what Steven Spielberg movie?
Yeah, it was The Post.
Oh, The Post. Okay,
yeah.
Got it.
So I had seen it, obviously, and then we went to this after party of like, it was like at the Chateau Marmont, this like room that Steven, I guess, had rented, or the producers, I don't know. And it was kind of a suite, and that was the one where you're like, oh my God, there's like, maybe 50 of us, and that's Jennifer Lawrence. And that's like, and it was so there were super superstars there, right? Like Kathryn Hahn was there. I'm trying to think.
Oh, well, nice.
It was and Meryl Streep was there. I think George Clooney was there. Matt Damon was there. Like it was Spielberg, right? So it just, everybody was there. Bob Odenkirk was there. Like there were just a bunch of people. And it was kind of a great moment because I knew who Phoebe Waller-Bridge was, but other people, she hadn't quite caught on yet.
Okay.
And so there she was at the buffet, just like hanging out. And I made a beeline for her. And I was like, oh my God, I love you. I love your stuff. And she was so happy because, you know, here we are at a Steven Spielberg party. She is the least famous person there, only above me. And I'm like, I know who you are. You're amazing. And she was like, oh. And so we chatted for a little bit, and that was fun.
Wow. That's super cool.
Yeah.
Now, when you're in that situation, are you able to like talk at a professional link? I mean, I have lost my cool around some famous people. I've been really cool with some people.
Yeah.
And then some people I just like, your brain goes crazy. Like you just basically, your adrenaline starts flowing and you're just like, I don't know what's happening to my mouth right now.
Yep. Yeah. That's, well, I'll tell you, it's hard to connect if you feel like, if you can't put yourself on equal footing.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? If you're like, oh my God, you're so amazing and I'm such a loser, then the best you can do is like, how about those crab cakes, right? And it's not entertaining and you feel shame just by standing in their presence, and that's never fun. One most successful time I ever had at a party where I had experienced none of that was the one time that my husband, God bless him, and he will admit to this day this was a terrible, terrible thing he did to me. It was a night before the Emmy party, and he was like, I had a dress on, and he came and he's like, oh, babe, no. I think it's casual. Like the invitation says casual. There's not even going to be a red carpet, so you don't need to. I think you're overdressed. And I was like, oh, casual, like what? Like, and then he goes, well, jeans and boots, you know. And I was like, jeans and boots? I said, but honey, I'm a girl. And he's like, really, honestly, it's fine. So long story short, as a perfect storm of checking in with exactly the wrong people of like, is it a jeans and boots party, whatever? And they all not unknowingly confirmed what was totally wrong. And so I throw on a shirt from Target and jeans and flip-flops and my Wonder Woman bag and go to an Emmy party because he said casual.
Yeah.
And we walk in, and I can tell you that even the people who were checking people in were in black cocktail dresses. So then I'm in the party walking in my flip-flops and my Wonder Woman bag and my jeans, and Patrick is behind me, and he's like, oh God. Oh God. And I'm going, oh, what is happening? What's happening? And he goes, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Do you want to go? We can go home. And I was like, no. We're here. It's fine. It doesn't matter. I'm not nominated. It's fine. I'm just in jeans. It's fine. And, but what was so great is the truth is that was the best party I've ever been to.
Oh, okay.
Because I was the girl in jeans. I had nothing. There was no pretense. There was no like, hey, I'm super special or rich or the most beautiful person here.
Yeah.
Everybody talked to me. Oh my God. I chatted with Nat Faxon and Vince Gilligan, and I chatted with like Ron Howard and Brian Grazer. Like I mean,
wow.
Louis C.K. was there. I did not chat with him, but like he was the only person dressed as shitty as I was. Everybody. I chatted with everybody. It was like great because I had nothing to lose. I mean, right? Wow. There was no pretense. There was no way. I don't know.
Yeah, you couldn't put in any airs because you just had to be you.
There was nothing to hide behind. All I had was like, hi, I'm a person. You're a person. What are you up to? I had already, you know what I mean? It was like such a weird, fun experiment. And it really taught me something about that. Like, don't ever try to be something that you're not.
Wow.
Don't. There's no point.
You weren't quite Elle Woods showing up, in the bunny costume, but
it was probably similar.
But I'd say I give you a lot of credit. Like I think a lot of people, as soon as they looked in, they would have just flipped right around and gone right back out.
But again, clearly my life path is not about like what people are going to think of me. Or whatever, I don't know. Like, I guess falling on my ass and I'm a little bit like, well, this looks like a tragedy. Let's walk right in and see what happens. I'm not gonna. I hate to backtrack more than I hate embarrassing myself at a party. Let's do this. And
okay, so oh, go ahead.
It was fun. It turned out to be really fun.
What was the first thing you sort of booked where you felt like I'm on my way? Like you're working, you're paying bills, but
yep.
Like Did you get something where you were like, all right, now this is where it starts?
Well, it's interesting. Like I got to work on, my first thing I really booked, well, no, that's not true. I did a web series called Dropping the Soap that I wrote.
Ah, okay. So there we go.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that transition then too. So at what point did then you start going, well, no, I'm not getting anything. So now I'm going to start creating stuff for myself. I mean, you have that in your history.
Yep.
Like you've been writing for yourself since you were a teenager.
Yep.
But then you've been doing other people's words now. So what was it that made you go, now it's time?
So I had been doing this, making music videos, and I did I did all the stuff.
Just stuff with friends, like get creative people together and let's throw something together and make a thing, or
like I had a song, I had an idea for a video. I'd give my camera to my friend Lorenzo, be like, "Come with me," and then he would shoot me singing it in weird places in different costumes and stuff, and then I would edit, and then I would post it on YouTube.
Oh, okay. So this is during the YouTube era.
Yes.
Okay. And you just as a tech nerd, what were you editing on?
Final Cut Pro.
Okay. Ooh.
Yeah.
Fancy.
Oh yeah.
No iMovie for you.
No, I can't understand iMovie. It's weird. I could do Final Cut and then I could do Adobe Premiere, but but no, I can't. I don't get iMovie. People do great things with it, but it's not for me.
Okay.
But so I would did all these music videos, and I was already sort of transitioning into the creator part of it. Like, I wasn't really. It's just one of those things, like your path. Like I wasn't getting an agent. I wasn't getting drawn into audition. I wasn't getting those opportunities. So I was making my own opportunities and sort of just going, I don't know, this feels good. Okay, this feels good. All right, I'll do this. And I just kept doing what felt good. And then it sort of led one thing to another of starting to write my own stuff. Like I wrote my first spec script, which was an office spec script. I took like an online TV writing class. And I wrote a half-hour office spec script, and it was good. It was.
Do you remember what the plot of your office spec script was?
I do. It was Michael was taking everybody to the local like putts and stuff. Miniature golf and laser tag and stuff like that. And that was basically the story of it. And then there was like obviously Jim and Pam and. Dwight and Jim, and
you got your A story, your B story, your C story.
Yep, I did all the stuff.
Nice. So you learned all your formats. You learned your interior thing, and then your log lines and.
Yep. Yes, that's where I started to do it. Had I written a screenplay before that? I might have written a screenplay before that, actually.
Okay.
I think I did. I took a screenwriting class too, so I obviously had interest in this stuff, and it was something, again, that I could do. I didn't have to wait for someone to give me an opportunity to write the stuff. You know what I mean?
Did you feel the format? Like I found on some stuff that when I was familiar with the stuff, like I could write a Star Trek spec, no problem.
Oh, yeah.
Because I feel the beats of it. But I tried to write a Mad Men, and I was like, I don't know where I am.
Right, yeah.
Because the rhythms of it were so different that I couldn't do it. Did you when you sat down to do because as opposed to the screenplay, which can be 90% yours, like there's the format, basically interior, coffee shop, day, that stuff. Mm-hmm. But to do a spec of somebody else's stuff, you're writing in kind of in someone else's voice and in a very rigid format. I
loved it. I actually really loved it. I mean, I got that I needed to look up the.
So then you are like me. You're just like you gave me 4 walls. I'll fill it up for you.
And what I loved about it is I was a true fan of the show. And so what I loved about it is it was so easy for me to write those characters because I knew them so well. And that's probably one of the few shows that I did know that well that I could really successfully write a spec. Again, I have the same issue with 1 hour. I don't understand the whole 6-act structure at all. It's so daunting, which is crazy because I actually now later in my life, I've actually watched probably more drama than I do comedy. And yet I still don't inherently understand that 6-act structure. And I also, you're not going to believe this with all my sketch experience. And I also have a tough time writing multicam.
Oh,
I don't know why.
interesting. See, I feel like you have a sitcom in you.
Oh, I would love it. I would love nothing more. I probably should be writing sitcoms. Like what I'm really good at is jokes.
Yes. I think you would be better for a single cam kind of show.
Yeah.
You know, like as opposed to a Big Bang Theory.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Like I think because I think I think you could do a lot more because you can also pause. That's the thing. The modern 3-camera thing. I was watching an episode of Night Court, and there was I was watching it. It's a 22-minute episode or whatever, and I was like, "There's been 6 minutes since there's been a laugh. This is amazing." Right? I mean, they got into some stuff, and I was like, they could never do this now,
right? I know, because
it has to be joke.
And I love comedy that really does awkward pauses. Yeah. And you're right, you can't do that in multicam. It's interesting. There's a lot of great films from the 70s too. Like I just did this movie that was inspired by The Big Chill on so many levels. That was one of my favorite movies as a kid, which is such a weird movie for a kid to love. Like, right? Was I not I was a freak. I would have watched that movie anytime it was on. It was grown-ups talking about really personal, intimate things and kissing and loving each other. And did we talk about this? I was like, it was just life-changing for me watching grown-ups behave in that way. And then also I just loved the dark comedy of it and the friendships. I just loved it. So but I rewatched that movie when I was about to direct this one going, gosh, I should watch The Big Chill because it's been in the back of my mind this whole time. And the opening credits of that movie, I was like, oh my God, it's 35 minutes and we're just getting to the funeral. And I love it.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Cause you had talked about how Top Gun had, sort of changed your life, put you on that path of so I just took my daughter because Top Gun is in theaters right now. Like they're doing a thing, and we went and watched it. And I was like, "This movie is so simple."
Yeah.
Because you think of it as Top Gun, but I'm like diners and sweaty place. Everyone's sweating constantly, and a bunch of stock footage. I'm like, this movie is so unbelievably simple, and it's also the stakes of it are. Will the really awesome pilot who has a really awesome pilot job get to do more awesome piloting? But somehow, Tony Scott takes all this, this really simple story, really basic filmmaking, and made something amazing out of it. I was so surprised by how small it seems for a giant movie.
Oh, I know. But they're also beautiful. Who cares? I mean, it really is know your audience, right? I mean... That's exactly. Oh God, yeah. That beach volleyball scene really changed me as a 12-year-old. I'll tell you what. I know. Again, those really simple stories. Those the character-driven stuff. Yeah. Loved it. Yeah. So I was.
Sorry, I didn't mean to
more.
derail that. It's just I remembered I wanted to talk to you about Top Gun before we got away. All right, so was it an idea that came to you that I want to do this as a web series or anything, or was it that there was something out there that you were like, I could do that?
Do you mean with dropping the soap or just in general?
Yeah, with dropping. I mean, you'd already been thinking stuff. You already been writing stuff. Yep. You had your spec script.
I had my spec script, and I.
So were you campaigning to write then to it, or were you sort of having it shop around?
I had co-written a screenplay, and by that time I had gotten a writing agent. So I did get a writing agent.
Wow, you had quite a team by this point.
Yeah, I did. I mean, so I got a writing agent with my co-writing partner. And
is there a different process for getting a writing agent than there is for the other ones, or is it just the same thing? They read your spec, they read your screenplay, and they go, yeah, you got the moxie, kid.
It is a different process, kind of. Part of it is you have to get lucky. You have to find the right person who's willing to read the script. But the truth is, this was we had a friend who was wanting to produce, and my friend Jennifer and I had written this script that she really liked. And so she optioned our script, and then she introduced us to the man who would become our writing agent.
Okay.
Because I don't even know why she was working with him, or she knew him from other projects she'd done. And she sent him the script, and he loved the script. So it was one of those like, oh, that's how it works. It's kind of what I always thought was going to happen with acting. Like, oh, somebody will come see a show and
they'll see how brilliant you are.
Kind of, yeah. Like that's how it happens, right? Yeah. Somebody sees your work and they go, hey, you're good. Let me take a chance on you. And when he has a script like that he can send out and get meetings for us, then that's what they need. They need that piece of material that excites them so much that they're going to send it out to people and always get good responses, and people read the script and go, ooh, I want to meet with them. So
right. So when it's optioned, like in this particular case, does money change hands, or is it just like someone has like sort of planted a flag?
Money usually does change hands, not always. Sometimes people option a script for $1. Okay. Sometimes people option for $100. Sometimes people option for $5,000. It's really, it depends on who it is and what your relationship is and how badly you want that.
We can't all be Joe Esterhaus.
Right. Exactly.
Inside joke just for the writers.
Exactly. Yeah. So it really depends. Like, she was a friend of ours and we were brand new writers. And, I think maybe when she renewed the option, she paid a little bit of money. I'm just curious to how the process works. You don't have to show me your bank statement. Oh, yeah. It was $50,000. I probably shouldn't say that on the air. No. Yeah. So sometimes you get paid, sometimes you don't. But I think the fancier you are, like anything, probably, right? If you're like the best plumber in town, you can charge a little more for like a snake.
Yeah.
So that was what the case was for us. Is like we were just starting. So.
Yeah. At what point does the note process begin then? Like, hey, your script is fantastic. It's brilliant. It's perfect. Like, now we're going to option it. But I have some notes.
I got to tell you, for anybody who wants to be a writer, the notes process is beginning now, and it will always be happening, and it will never end until your thing has been shot and is in the can. And even then, people will try to rewrite it or tell you what you should have done differently. It never ends, I swear to God. And although you might have these glamorous kind of ideas about like, well, I get paid. I mean, if you're super fancy, right? Like, fancy. Charlize Theron is not going to come in and do ADR without you paying her, right? Actors on my movie are probably going to come into my booth and do ADR, but there comes a certain time when you don't have to get paid for where you get paid for every breath you take and every time you do anything on behalf of a production, they have to pay you. But writers,
this is the one advantage of the theater is that there is a point where it's done.
Yeah.
That they basically say okay, the script is locked.
That's great.
And you cannot change it from then on through the end of time unless you do, make special dispensation.
That's true.
That is the thing. However, you still have to go through the notes process. And I've had to go through that a couple of times too.
Right? Yeah. And it's brutal. And when I wrote my first office spec, it's so interesting. I wrote my first, the opening, the cold open. Mm-hmm. I wrote a goddamn joke that I thought was so funny. I mean, I loved it so much. It was a whole bit with Dwight and Jim. I have to go back and read what it was because I'm very curious now to know if it was as amazingly brilliant as I thought it was. And I thought it was the funniest thing ever. And I was so proud of this cold open. And I gave it to someone to read, and she was like, I think you'd do better with the cold open. And I was like, whatever, you're wrong. But And then I gave it to somebody else, and they're like, I love it. I found the cold open to be a little, and I was like, what the fuck? And I went to one of my dear friends, and I was like, what is happening? Everyone is wrong. And she goes, well, just write something else. I mean, don't you have any other? And I was like, why should I have to write something else? It's the best thing I've ever written. And she goes, well, don't you have any other ideas? And that is when I understood the notes process in a totally different way. Mm-hmm. And I became great at writing, at doing notes, because I was like, oh, right. I can't just rely on my first idea to be my best. It might be my best, but I have to listen to the input, noodle it. Now when I get notes, I get my notes. I try everything. And that way when I go back to them and I go, either I took your note, it worked, it was great, led me to this. Or I go, oh, yeah, that note didn't work. And let me tell you why. I tried it, but it came off like this, you know?
Yeah.
So
I joined a screenwriting group when I first moved out to Phoenix, and they would do readings. So so in the room there's some directors and stuff too, but there are a bunch of writers and a bunch of actors because they do readings. So like basically they have chosen 3 or 4 scripts, and then the actors go up and it's kind of a cold read, even though some of them have had it for an hour or 2 hours, but it's never like pre-prepared. And they read it out, and then they do a notes process. So like basically then all the writer gets up and then sits down, sits in front of everybody.
Wow.
And all the other writers go, actually do it. And so that was amazing for me to learn, because I got to watch someone get critiqued on their work in front of everybody and how they respond to it.
Interesting.
And so, like, because usually if you're a writer, like, you have people doing it to you, but you never get to see it happen to someone else. Yeah. So I got to watch a variety of responses of people getting super defensive. I mean, it's their work. I mean, like, it's some of these people have been writing their screenplay for a year, 2 years.
Yeah.
And now this is the first time it's been out there, and they would get even hostile and just like, you're wrong. I mean, like, they would get really strong, and I was like, oh wow, like, and I just learned from that. So by the first time it happened to me, where I did a reading for a play, and I had all the actors and then some of the other creative people around there giving me notes, and this one happened to be for youth theater, so I had like 15-year-olds giving me notes on the script, and I had to be like, okay, I got to be cool here, because like you just have to just sit there and go, okay, that's interesting, and defending it is not going to help you, in the situation. So you'd be like, actually, what you didn't understand was, like, no, they didn't understand. That's the whole point. Sometimes I would sort of make the point of, what I was trying for was X, but I didn't get it. So all right, but it was a very hard process to do, to not be immediately defensive, because that's my child, that's my baby. I worked and slaved over this. But the other part to think about is, sometimes they'll give a suggestion, which is horrible. Don't ever give a suggestion. Like, that's not your job, my job. That's my job. But to take the intention behind the suggestion, like you're saying with your cold open, if multiple people say, I have a little problem with this, there's something wrong with it. You might not know what that is, but even if it's not what they think it is, like, you need to scrap the whole thing. Like, no, but they have identified a problem area, and you need to figure out what that problem is. But it was definitely a learned skill, and it's not an easy process ever.
Oh God, no, it isn't. And it really, you got to take a big bite of humble pie every time.
Yes.
But you know what?
It's that you're not fantastic and brilliant, because I'm sorry I'm doing this about me, but the other thing that happened to me once, the complete opposite of it, is finished a reading and they said, does anyone have any notes, anything they want to talk about? And no one did. And I was like, oh, this hurts almost as much. Because I'm like, I know this is not brilliant. I know this is not finished. But like the fact that not one person had a note for me, I was like, oh, this
inspires no thought or conversation or, okay.
No one even wants to say something nice. Okay. All right.
Oh my God. Yeah, I mean. So
I've been on both sides of that.
It totally handles your ego, right? Like, I mean, you really have to go, God, writing. I just heard Tina Fey on the Smartless podcast, and she was like, writing is no fun, not fun ever until you are finished. When you are finished with writing something and you've completed it, then it's fun. But the process up to that point sucks, and she hates it, and she wants to quit every day. And I was like, yep, that sounds about right. Because, like, it takes a long time before you go, I'm just going to do the best I can. Like, I can't get involved in whether or not this is amazing. Or like you learn to go, okay, is it furthering story? Does it make sense? Is it,
Yes.
and you start to get all those things where you can sort of filter people's opinions and critiques through that. But that takes so much time. And then you're like, it's so hard. You do want a blue ribbon just for getting it done. I think we should all get ribbons for getting it done, but that's
Yeah. Yeah. That's what Neil Gaiman said, doesn't matter what you write, but you have to finish.
Yeah, that is. And that's hard.
Even just to be done. Yes. But Tina Fey is right. What a surprise. I'm sure the first person to ever say that.
I know.
But Paul Tompkins, I remember saying, having written is so much better than writing.
Oh, God. Now, I do like parts of writing. Like when I get an inspiration or idea that I think is really funny, or I come up with a joke that I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like I remember when I was writing Dropping the Soap, Patrick was working in Albuquerque and I needed a name of a drug for a fake soap opera, like hospital scene. And the nurse had to talk about a fake drug. And I came up with albaquestramine. And it still makes me giddy, so excited, When stuff like that happens, I'm like, oh, albaquestramine. And that just makes life worthwhile. Now, that was during the process. That was fun. It was fun at the table read when people read it and laughed. It was fun seeing it get shot. It's fun that it's there. Anybody gets to see an albaquestramine, So that was very rewarding along the way.
Yeah, I agree. Every once in a while when two characters start riffing, and you're just transcribing.
Oh, man. Yeah, it's great.
That's the good stuff. Where you're just like, man, I'm just glad to be in the room with you guys. Like as they're just going back and forth, and you're just transcribing.
Yes, it's that
weird thing.
It's so fun. It's this weird, and I wonder what our relationship to this really needs to be. Like, there's all this like ambition about being in the industry or getting our stuff. Like, you do want it to be good. So there are things you have to consider, structure, and you do have to like learn from the greats and follow some rules. But I also think God, you can kill so much of the fun too. It has to be a healthy balance of like, I'm just transcribing and it is what it is, and now let's make it into something that other people can stand to watch.
Yeah.
That's the balance.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the weird collaboration part where you're just like, when we finish, then the work begins.
Oh yeah.
So it's like you have a thing, but unfortunately it's not a novel.
Right.
It's not like and print and stick it on the shelf. It's like, oh no, it's just like congratulations, it's not a building, it's a blueprint.
Right? I've been doing this movie, like I wrote it years ago, and there's all of it. Like, it is a giant process. And you go, oh my God, I still want to make movies? And the answer is yes. But I'm a crazy person for that, because it's like you pour your heart. I must love the process, because the fact that all this time and energy, and I'm like, would you like to watch my 1.5-hour opus? But that's, there's other things. I've gotten to do things along the way that were very fun. Like, I caught the writing bug for sure after I did that Office spec, and then I started, I was in the zone where I could write, and I co-wrote that screenplay with my friend Jennifer, and then somebody else pitched me an idea for a screenplay, and I wrote that in like 3 weeks. I wrote it. So I started writing kind of like a maniac, and I loved it. I really loved it. And I wasn't trying to be successful with it necessarily. I was just writing it because I was like, I love that story, and having so much fun,
And that's where we're going to stop the conversation for today. Our chat continues next time, as we'll talk about the writing process and get closer to Mandy stepping into the director's chair. If you'd like to hear more of Mandy's voice, she's got her very own podcast. It's called The Mand Cave, hosted in collaboration with her friend Mandy Kaplan. You'll find it wherever the finest podcasts are found. Thanks so much for listening. This has been the next chapter in the Curiosity Codex, but there are still many pages left to decipher. We're part of the True Story FM family of podcasts. Find out more about us at truestory.fm. Our theme music is Intrusion by Severed Personality, a.k.a. Kevin MacLeod. The voice of the Codex is Vicky Hall. Find her on the web at vickyhall.squarespace.com. And my name is Kyle Olson.
The Codex is closed. For now.